Hey guys, how's it going? So it's 2 a.m. at the moment. I thought I'll do a real quick video for complete beginners. You may have just bought a new DR650 or you've got a used one. This is just going to be orientated for beginners, things they need to know, things they should consider buying for the DR if they don't already have it. So let's just get straight into it. First thing you want to check is your upper chain roller. They're a little bit too low on the frame, and in some cases if you hit the back suspension hard you can rip it right off the frame and leave a hole. So you want to take it off, put a bolt in there with Loctite, seal it off and forget about it. That would be number one, I'd say. Number two, famously bad seats. People call them 4x2s or 2x4s. There's plenty of options out there. You've got Seat Concepts, Sargent, Corbin seats. They come in different heights, lows, highs. You can buy them as a complete seat, or Seat Concepts offers foam and cover, so you can just re-staple your new foam and cover to your original pan. You won't regret that because, like I said, the DR650 is a horrible seat. So that'd be number two. Number three, most DRs don't come with a skid plate, bash plate. You don't want to be bashing holes in your cases, leaking oil everywhere, or bashing your frame up. So definitely consider getting a bash plate. And just to add to that, case savers are worth it too, because sometimes your shifter, if you fall over, you punch a hole in the side of your case. So it's worth getting some of these. Also, your counter seal they used to pop out on the older bikes, not all the time, but they've been known to, and then oil spits everywhere and you blow your bike up basically. So what you want to do is check to see if you've got one of those retainers behind the sprocket. Some of the newer bikes, or all of the newer ones, have them now, but if you've bought a used DR650, you want to check to see if it's there and put that on. They're pretty cheap, so consider putting one of them on. Alright, if you're thinking about doing any more than 200 kilometers range on the DR, you want to consider getting an oversized tank. This one in particular is a 5.3 gallon 20 litre Turbis tank. They also offer a 25 litre. You can also get Safari tanks, IMS tanks. They're good because you can't dent them. They're quite robust. So if you're thinking about doing long range, you've got to consider getting an oversized tank. Alright, also the DR650 is quite famous for having horrible suspension. It's quite soft, depending on your weight and what kind of riding you're doing. But the front's got a tendency to dive, and the rear's got a tendency to pogo stick. So, like I said, depending on your weight and your riding style, you might want to consider revalving the front and rear suspension, changing up the springs, etc, etc. Another good thing if you're doing long distance, windshield, protect your chest. Usually this one in particular will take all the wind off your chest, less fatigue. You don't necessarily have to have it, but a lot of people say you do, but not really. Also these trail wing tyres, these are the stock ones from new. They're crap, they're a real hard compound, terrible in the mud. They're nicknamed Death Wings. So if you want to do some off-roading, consider getting some more aggressive tyres with better compound. Okay, down to a little bit less important stuff in my opinion. The exhaust is famous for being heavy. Some people call it an anchor. I think it's about 6-7 kgs or something like that, maybe even more. Plenty of aftermarket options out there. I prefer slightly quieter exhaust, so I'm still looking for a quiet one. But if you want to take some weight off the DR, like a lot of other bikes, consider getting rid of that exhaust. Alright, so if you haven't seen my other videos, I just did some re-greasing videos, maintenance stuff. The DR is also known to have lack of grease from the factory, so definitely make sure your linkage is well greased, your axles are greased and bearings, and also your steering head, because they're quite dry from factory. So it's worth checking that out. Okay, so there's one thing I forgot on the other side here. There's this thing on the DR called the NSU, and it's the neutral sending unit to show you that you're in neutral down there. And what happens is, on that slightly older bikes, 2013 and before, maybe a bit later, is the screws would come loose. Usually you would tell by the neutral light will start flashing on you for no reason. If that happens, stop running your bike, because the screws will fall down into your bottom end and destroy your gearbox. So that's one of those, I guess you could say, faults with the DR650. So look into that. It's another tip that you should definitely not ignore. Okay, so this here is an inline fuel filter. The DR650 from factory has a tiny little one that sits inside this tube here, and that has a tendency to block, and then you'll have running issues. So what a lot of people do is flick it out, take the hose off here, and then put an inline fuel filter. Less risk getting blocked, and you can also kind of see how much dirt's in there. So that's another thing to consider. Alright, so these are Renthal bars. The stock ones are quite famous for being really flimsy, and they really are. If you see the thickness of the wall on the stock bars, you'll see why everyone hates them. And they're also quite low, so if you're a taller person, it's quite uncomfortable. But definitely consider getting new bars, because even if you drop the bike once, you can easily bend those bars. So yeah, you've got Pro Taper bars, Renthal bars, plenty of other options, so have a look into that. Alright, that's just a quick video for beginner people thinking about getting a DR650. Showed you some of their faults. Overall, they're an amazing bike. I think they're quite a reliable bike. Yeah, so I just thought I'd put this video out real quick so you can do your own research and see if you want to consider buying a bike or DR650, or if you already have, there's some tips. So thanks for watching, guys. It's not so much for the pro guys, but for the beginners. Hope it helps. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.